Thanks for accommodating us and being in the garage today. I know it's raining out. We want to make sure we're consistent with our media briefings, regardless of weather, and also want to make sure that we have properly social distance. I think the geese are going to have a tougher time finding us in the garage, which is probably a good thing. Last time they've become quite persistent when it comes to making their voices heard. So anyways, I got about two things I want to talk about that the city is doing in response to this crisis. One of them is the Emergency Assistance Program. As we know, people throughout our community have been struggling quite a bit when it comes to the COVID crisis, and we want to announce that we are assisting Sedgwick County residents who have faced financial hardships due to COVID-19 and they meet the federal income guidelines that live in Sedgwick County, that they can now receive assistance in paying rent or utilities. So if you fall into this category where you do meet the federal guidelines and you have been struggling meeting rent and utility payments, please call 462-3775 or email wsccap@wichita.gov to see if you qualify. So again, that's wsccap@wichita.gov. And if you qualify, then we'll be able to hopefully help you, give you a helping hand when it comes to your rent or your utility bills that might have fell behind. Also, another program that we are proud to announce, we took a vote on this last Tuesday at our meeting, and it's supposed to help aid not only in financial assistance for those who are struggling with this COVID crisis, but also help us save water. So with the Water Rebate Program, when this program first began, we had rebates totaling over $1 million. $230,000 have been approved for more than 12,000 water-saving units. So that's saving an estimated 323 million gallons of water overall. So if you're in the market for a new appliance or a rain barrow, or a toilet, please check out our website because you could save money while getting a rebate for products that are utilizing water more responsibly, and that will be at wichitawater.com. So wichitawater.com to see the rebate options if you're going to buy a new appliance, and it's a way to save some money. So also, one of the things we want to talk about, and one of the things we're getting a lot of comments on, is reopening our city. As most people know, the governor's order last week was to have a tiered approach or a layered approach to opening up our city with the focus on safety while also returning to some level of normalcy. So with that, the city is in our own process of trying to balance safety with normalcy, but really leaning heavy on what's safe. So one of the most frequently asked questions we have is about our libraries. We get a lot of calls about when are we going to open up libraries. There are people who I think really rely on this service. So I'm happy to say that the libraries will begin our curbside drive-up window service beginning Monday, May 11th. So Monday, May 11th, while you can't go into the library, you will be able to have curbside pickup orders that you can receive there. So if you have items on hold before the library closed, you receive a notification on Monday to come and retrieve your materials. So if you have been on a website, saving items and wanting to pick them up Monday, you get that notification. You can come by and you can pick up that material without even getting out of your car. It'll be curbside. So as we progress with our reopening plans, we're going to share them with you. Right now we are focused on safety more so than anything else. So we want to, we know there's a demand for the services that people are expecting from the city. We do take that into account, but also we need to make sure that as we reopen different aspects of our libraries or our parks or our golf courses or anything, that we do it in the safest way possible so that we can stay ahead of the curve with this virus. So with that, I'll open up to questions.
One point is 26.2% due to autism, parasitic, and all that. How do you respond to that? And is this program that you talk about over that in response to that number?
So, and I'm supposed to repeat the question, of course, and I'm getting, I think, a little better at these news conferences, so I'm going to try to repeat the question, but I only caught part of it. I think you're referring to the very high unemployment rate and how the city is facing that when it comes to reopening. Is that correct summary of your question?
It's, the unemployment rate is high with Spirit shutting down
Right.
and all that stuff. Because of the pandemic, is the program you talked about earlier, is that in response to some of these numbers?
Yes and no. Right now, we are coming out of a natural disaster. Okay, so we are coming out, and we're still somewhat in it, where the effect with the COVID-19 virus is not only on health, nationwide, worldwide, and within our community, but it's also economic. So unemployment is at a very high rate. There are a lot of people out there struggling. As the city, we are asking ourselves, what is our part? Like, what can we do to help lower the burden on our citizens? Unlike the federal government, we can't just print money. We have to stay within our means and our budget. The program I mentioned about and I'm going to say the number again, 462-3775 is a program for those people who are who qualify, who might be struggling to pay utility and rent bills. This is one of the ways that we can help. Another way was announced last week where a person who emailed me said that they thought it would be a good idea if we offered some type of bus pass for people who are struggling, and we were able to offer Saturdays 100% completely free on Saturday bus rides, and we've seen people take advantage of that. And like I said, we have to balance this with safety, where Saturdays were our lowest travel days, so we could see an uptick in ridership while still keeping people safe, and that's what we've done. As we continue to move forward, we are looking for creative ways to utilize different pockets of funding so that we can get the best bang for our buck for service. But I do want everyone to know that we did a very good job as a community facing this thing head on and lowering the health the health risk, right? Like if you compare Wichita to other similar cities, we did really well. We gave people accurate information. They took that information and they were cautious of spreading this. Now the next phase of this is rebuilding. And that's going to be economically. This is not hitting a light switch and then getting right back to normal. And another step forward on that is our small business economy. Is the local businesses that really make Wichita unique. As some of you might have reported on, I appointed the first small business council to the mayor, where they are going to be people within our community who will serve a 3-month term to just advise the mayor, and so I can bring that information to the council to make sure that they're getting their needs met by the city if those needs are something that the city can provide. So we are going to be now focused not just on health and safety, because we've done a good job, but also on rebuilding that economy. And we knew going into this that this was going to have a huge economic impact. And as a city, we have to decide what is our role moving forward to serve our citizens.
Have you already had feedback from the business council?
I've had a lot of feedback from the business council, actually. So a lot of positive feedback, and more surprisingly, the feedback has been a lot of interest in serving on the council. I will likely make a few more appointments to kind of round out the council a bit better, but I have a list. I pretty much have people who are interested in the next council. And as I said before, what makes us unique is we can change it every quarter. And by changing it every quarter, every 3 months or so, and it's flexible, where it will continuously allow us to have fresh perspectives and new ideas at the table. And also, in certain situations, depending on how the economy goes, we might one quarter want to be more focused in one area or in one sector, and this allows us that freedom. So my goal is to bring in new voices, not just people who might already plugged into some of the really great organizations we already have in our community, but people who this sounds bad. I'm kind of looking for the people who are too busy to be on a council, right? Like the ones who are, oh, geez, I got this Zoom meeting I got to attend on Friday, but they're serving and they'll put in their 3 months of service, and then they will either go back to doing a business, or they might catch the bug of serving a community and want to get appointed to something that's more long, that's more of a long-standing appointment. So that's the goal. And like with the buses, where that started from an email. That was a woman who emailed me, and then I thought it was a good idea, ran the idea past Councilmember Johnson. We got talking how we can make it happen, and we saw the first 2 Saturdays were reported on last council meeting, and people have taken advantage of that. It's actually working, right? So, and I say that with a surprise, because sometimes government, we give people stuff, but no one was asking for it. So sometimes our stuff isn't, it's not as effective. So this is a similar approach, where it's a bottom up, where it's, hey, what are you seeing on the ground, and what can we do to be helpful? And we are going to have either a network solution, I think, to some of these, where we're looking for this or that, and there might be an organization that already does that, so we can connect business owners with that organization. Or there might be more of a local government solution, where hey, we're trying to get our shop reopened. You guys ticket people who park in front of our shop. Can you stop ticketing those people for the next 2 months until we get going, so we can try to bring more people in? So stuff like that, where we might not even know that what we're doing is causing that business hardship. So that's the goal moving forward, is to utilize this council to create some of those good ideas that we probably should be having those discussions about anyways, but we might not, because we're not facing these problems every day like our small business community is.
You talked a little bit about the economy and how it's been affected.
Mm-hmm.
Have you seen any numbers to determine how much the economy has been affected? Yeah,
the national numbers, the state numbers, the fact that unemployment has shot up, I think, like 5,000%. We have a outdated unemployment system that has been starved by our state government for years, and we're seeing what the cuts to those budgets have cost Kansans. And really, on a federal level, we've seen just unemployment skyrocket. And I personally know the Secretary of Labor, and she has a good heart. She's someone who wants to serve. She should be in this position, and they are doing their best, but they have just been starved of the resources. And when I was in the legislature, I remember they passed bills making it tougher to get on unemployment. And the idea was that the economy will always be great and people need to just go get another job. It never projected the type of emergency we're in right now, right? Where what if the economy is shut down because of a virus? This is literally a once in 100-year phenomenon that we are dealing with, and there's no blueprint. So the economic effects of this is real. It's huge. We need to be focusing on that, just like we're focusing on the health effects of this. And we need to be considering this, in my opinion, just like we do a natural disaster, right? Just like a tornado ripped through our business district, or a flood, flooded our city. Rebuilding is going to take time. And in doing that, we need leaders who understand that this is going to be a stepped approach, and who will work together across the different levels of government, from the local level where we're at today, all the way to our federal delegation. And if we do it right, we can get out of this stronger than we were when we went into it, but there's still going to be a lot of struggle in the meantime. And as mayor, I just want to make it clear, I understand that. And I wake up every day thinking about what can I do today to try to rebuild our economy while keeping people safe. Yes, ma'am.
So for the emergency assistance program, can you kind of talk about where in your budget that money is coming from, and how long do you expect this program to last?
So actually, that's a really good question. I believe I don't have those details with me. I believe it's coming from our COVID fund. So as I think I mentioned last, I could be off on this, right? So I might have to send you a correction. We have a pot of money that we can be reimbursed from when it comes to how we're handling the COVID crisis, and that's how our bus fare money, for example, is coming from. Is we got the approval to utilize money from the COVID fund for our Saturday buses. I believe this might also be from that bucket. But I probably want to double check in case I say something that isn't 100% accurate. Normally we do have someone with us who's, of that department, who I can usually kind of pass this off and give you all the details you want. And we don't have that today. It's a very good question, but I do know that it's in effect. So regardless where the money is coming from, it's not coming out of the general fund, to my knowledge. Please go to WSCCAP@wichita.gov to see if you qualify, if you are someone who might be struggling with your utilities or your rent. Other questions?
So, talking a little bit, going back to the small business, and I guess with the stadium not opening, obviously the city's lost revenue there, but the impact that it's having on those small businesses in Delano, because not only they were shut down because of COVID-19, but now they're losing the revenue that they would be getting from.
Right, and you're exactly right. We have a stadium. We had a lot of really great stuff lined up. My first 5 months of mayor wasn't supposed to look like this. We had our 150th birthday coming up. We had Riverfest coming up. We had the grand opening of the stadium. We had really a flourishing Delano district where new shops are opening up. We had articles last year that said Wichita's recession proof. You guys remember those? And the reality is, it shows you the magnitude that COVID has had. All right, so it's one of those where, and I get a little agitated, I guess, when I read online articles and stuff that's pushed that, hey, this was a hoax, or it's not that serious. And then you look at the death toll numbers, and then you look at the unemployment numbers, and then you look at my email box where I have moms and dads who are emailing me wondering how they can kind of break that firewall for unemployment because their kids might not get food. So it's real, and we have to address it head on. And the city council and your mayor is doing that, but we can't fix everything. And to be honest, we're going to need help from the federal government. We're going to need help from our state government. And this is no surprise, but the federal government doesn't really do things very well. They came out with trillions of dollars in stimulus weeks ago, and we found out that that wasn't helping some of the businesses we thought it was going to help, right? And then we get people who say, why don't the cities just file bankruptcy? Like, literally the worst idea I've ever heard in my life. Like, why don't we, this is a crisis. We're all in this together. Let's put people first, and let's take all the resources we can with a collaborative solution to bring our economy back and surpass where it was. And I mean, you're exactly right, where we had a lot of really good stuff lined up, and this would have been a completely different spring if that went forward. The silver lining is that Wichita, when it came to flattening that curve, we did really well with that. We did not get hit like New York did, or even like other Midwestern cities, where we saved lives. And that is although I understand the magnitude that we are still in, the crisis we're still in, I am overwhelmed with people who looked out for the neighbors, the fact that we are in a financial crisis, which is really bad, but we also weren't hit as hard as other cities were when it came to a death toll. Fixing the economy is going to be a lot easier with our neighbors still healthy. So that I think is, but you bring up some good points. I mean, I think our revenues for the city have been projected at a 5 to 15 million hit, okay, which means that last year when they approved the budget, or they kind of give you a template, like we approved this year's budget, but they say, hey, this is what it would probably look like next year. They expected 5 to 15 million more than we have today, and so we have to provide a lot of services with 5 to 15 less than we normally have, which I think is an outrageous estimate, by the way, right? Like 5 million, give or take, times 3. Like, that shows you the level of uncertainty moving forward, and that's one of the reasons why we have our economic development summits and our budget summits pretty much every week. It's because we have to figure out how can we stabilize the budget while providing the services that people expect from us, and then jumpstarting the economy and making sure that we're making the right investments to get caught up to where we should have been before COVID.
Aviation is such a driving force.
It is.
Are you and other leaders looking at whatever it's going to take to make this community more diverse, bring in more jobs, because you're seeing it right now?
Yeah. So the question was, I'm supposed to be repeating these questions. Megan's not here to give me kind of a look, right, if I don't repeat the question. But the question was about aviation and about diversification of our economy. When I was running for office, one of my biggest platform items was diversification of our economy, because we are so entrenched in one sector. And usually that sector's good, right? Like, that sector's been good to us for quite a while. However, when it's bad, it's really bad. And, so aviation, we can't put all of our eggs in a basket of aviation anymore. There was a study, I had lunch with Secretary Tolan a few months ago when we were facing the economic crisis before it turned into the health and economic crisis. And he's the Secretary of Commerce for the state of Kansas, and he told me that a study done showed that Wichita was twice as invested today in aviation as Detroit was in the automotive industry back in the 80s. Okay, so there's no reason for that. We started our economic development summit last week with a chart that shows where Wichita was in 2008, before the Great Recession, and kind of a squiggly line to where we are today, and every city on that chart has beaten us, has gone up. And when I asked the question, what is happening there, what is Tulsa doing, of all places, that Wichita's not doing, right? Like, so we should be keeping up with Tulsa, if not beating them like we do in basketball. Then, we should be beating them in job growth. So what are they doing? And the reality is they diversified. So for Wichita to go forward, and I don't want to sound like I'm knocking, anything the last 10 years. I'm not. Like, we've done some really good stuff as a city, but the reality is we did not diversify. We should have. We talked about it. We didn't do it. And we have all of the right pieces in place right now to do anything we want to do. We can build anything, right? So if we got the manufacturing sector, let's diversify that. Let's do more than just build airplanes. Also, we have PhD level hard science degrees over at Wichita State. We have a technology community here. We should be getting more into technology and being able to upload products into the cloud, right? And sell them not just in Kansas, not just in the United States, but on an international level. We have some companies in Wichita that are currently doing that, who are growing and diversifying not just their product, but the economies that they're in. So if we're down in certain sectors, they're still selling in a different area. We have the tools to do that, and one of the things that makes Wichita so unique and so great is we also have a entrepreneurial culture here, which we are the home to incredible worldwide businesses where they started here. And when I talk about the economic culture and the entrepreneurial culture of Wichita, it means that if you fail, that's okay. We tell you to go fail again, right? We encourage business leaders to take risks. So when we look towards diversification, we need to look towards technology as our future, but utilizing our entrepreneurial culture as a vehicle to get from here to there, and be an encouraging, smart innovation and really a smart risk. And that is how we're going to not only get out of this, but also grow as an economy. That would have been my plan moving forward if we didn't have such a crisis that we do right now. But coming out of the crisis, when I say we could come out stronger, that's what I'm talking about. You sometimes need a crisis to look back on what your basics are. And if we do it right, we will not have these squiggly line charts with Tulsa, of all places, beat us, okay? Because I'm a Wichita State fan. You know, if Tulsa's not winning by like a last-minute 3-point shot that no one thought would ever go in, and it was a miracle that they beat us, they shouldn't be beating us, right? So their job growth rate last year was 2.5%. Ours was a 0.5 percentage. Like, if Wichita State basketball lost by 5 times the points to Tulsa, we would be outraged. I'm outraged if we lose by that much in job growth. So I think that we have a long way to go, and we're on the road to get there. Today, though, I want to make sure that Grandma's safe. I want to make sure my mother-in-law isn't being affected by someone who is listening to the wrong politician or reading the wrong stuff on Facebook, goes out, catches COVID, and then touches the same common touch area like a doorknob that my mother-in-law touches. So that's today. We have to think about today. We got to think about our short-term and then our long-term goal. Our long-term goal is diversification. I'm sorry, that's pretty long-winded, but it's something I've been thinking quite a bit about. Other questions? You got anything from a chance?
With their, I guess the budget shortfall and the economic struggles we're facing, does the city have any plans? It always seems like there's a lot of incentive given out each week
Right.
to different developers and things like that. And there's a growing concern in the community with tips and CIDs and all these
Right.
incentive packages that we've got a lot of city funds in different baskets that are really depending on maybe some promises that may not come to fruition.
Right.
Is there any plan to kind of slow down or tighten the ropes? I know the Economic Development Council meeting last week actually requested lowering the requirements.
Lowering the bar.
And allowing a lower return on investment
Right.
for the public. How does the city justify that decision?
So to repeat the question, it was a long question, but it was about and correct me if I'm getting this wrong, I'm going to sum it up. Our economic development plan has always kind of been this, and now moving forward, should it still be this or should it now be this? You know, and you know, at our economic development summit last week, we have a model that the city puts a bunch of numbers in. Think of like a spreadsheet, and it needs to equal $1 we put in has to equal 1.3 or more for us to consider it a viable investment. And now there's talk about lowering that from 1.3 to 1.0, so dollar for dollar. And there's a couple things with that. Is that inaccurate? Did I sum up your very long question? Chance is the only one I know who hasn't had a haircut in 6 weeks, and you can't even tell, by the way. So there's a few things. First of all, as mayor, I need to make sure that we are reviewing our economic development plan that was created before COVID and making sure that it's relevant to today. Everything has changed, right? So we can't be looking at what was the playbook before COVID came in because things are different now. If we have stuff around the arena, not the arena, the baseball stadium, for instance, that is depending on sales tax. We have these incentives that it pays for itself or should be paying back debt by sales tax for businesses that are around that area. Well, we have no one going out right now, utilizing those sales tax. Well, that of course was something that wasn't thought of, over a year ago when this was put into play. So, moving forward, we need to be smart. We need to have be making sure that the investments we're making are going to be appropriate for the current economic situation, but also for the future. And when you talk about how do you justify taking the bar from every dollar you put in has to be 1.3 down to every dollar you put in has to be 1.1, the justification for it is that we need to be looking at more than just whatever the spreadsheet kicks out, where just because we change that number, and I don't think we officially changed it yet, we're discussing it, we need to also, we can still vote no on it. And I think as mayor, and I've told the manager this, we're like, I will walk from a bad deal. if we have a deal that says they're going to do this, and then it kind of came in here, then we'll walk from it. Like, we will not spend taxpayer money on something that's not going to pay out. But when we talk about the formulas, if the formulas work as well as a spreadsheet works, then we'd be in a lot better situation, wouldn't we? Right? Like, if this was all a math problem, then I think that we would, the accountants would handle it, and it would be a lot easier to adjust the economy. The reality is, it's a science, but it's also an art. Okay, we need to be taking in other variables. There might be a company that's coming in who's only doing 1 to 1.1, so every dollar we put in, we get $1.10 back. But that company is also going to be providing these other services to our community. Or it's a sector we're really trying to attract here, where if we get, like particularly the tech sector, if we get tech people in here who are creating apps, who are looking towards that next economy, and then they stop their project, we need to make sure that there's a job pool of qualified people to take on the next project. So it's the goal, and I can see where we become less formulaic, where it could possibly cause problems, but the goal is to be smart and flexible moving forward, and I believe that the council, we don't agree on everything, but I believe that we all agree on making smart investments and trying to grow this economy, and we are in a unique situation where we're going to need some flexibility when it comes to our investments moving forward. Got a follow-up, Chance? Sorry about the hair comment.
Yeah, a lot of the projects that are already in place, so you've got just examples, Union Station, the football park, the medical school, all sorts of things downtown. Are you and the rest of the council concerned about these things we poured a lot of millions of taxpayer dollars into failing now because of the economic downturn?
So the question was about some of the projects that were created before this year that depend on, I think, the last economy, right, or the last economic decision, the economy when the last decisions were made are failing today. And I think you're referring to some of the incentives require people to go out and actually utilize those so that tax money gets in and pays for them. To be honest, and you also threw in the new medical school, and I'm going to talk about that at length as well. When it comes to juggling the economic investments we've made and the changes in COVID, I think that our staff is looking into different ways that we can juggle these commitments and looking towards different options to make sure that things don't fail. So am I concerned about the economy? Yes, of course. Am I concerned about some of these programs that we utilize? I expect those programs to probably adjust to the new realities, and our staff is working on that. Now, the interesting thing when it comes to diversification and with the new medical school is that when you have a new college and you have economic downturn, that actually helps us economically stabilize Wichita. And I'll tell you why. When the economy goes down and people have less job opportunities, they usually go back to school. We saw a bump in 2008 and 2010 nationally when it came to people seceding from the free market, right? Like their job went away or they had more changes and they went back to grad school. I'll tell you, the reason why I have a doctorate degree is because in 2008, it was tougher to get a job. So I just kept taking classes, right? And then lo and behold, 7 years later, I finished a 4-year doctorate program. So I think that having a medical school downtown is actually going to be more of a stabilizing factor because the people who are utilizing that type of schooling, where you really have to be a full-time student, they are getting either scholarship money or grant money coming in from the federal government that is money that normally might not be coming into Wichita, coming from the federal government to the students, so they can pay for housing, they can pay for classes, they can pay for a coffee over at Leslie's Coffee House where they study. That also is a stimulation to our economy. And they're paying rent. They're utilizing bringing people in, regional people who are becoming medical doctors, and those people might stay or might actually be going to some of the outskirt areas and serving those populations. So I believe that particularly when it comes to higher education and bringing in a college, you are diversifying and adding a level of security to your economic mix, I guess, your portfolio, because a lot of that money is guaranteed and coming from the federal level. All right, so I'm getting the time to wrap it up. I guess I have been a little long-winded. Anyways, guys, I appreciate you all coming out. And of course, reach out to me if there's any more questions. Chance, sorry about the hair comment. You look great. Anything pressing? See none. Thanks, guys. Really appreciate it.